The header of today's letter is Adulting Gone Wrong. My spiral into debt and moving back in with my parents. How about that?
Oof.
Oof. Yep. It's a move on the chessboard. That's all it is. It's just a move. That's it. But it's all about how you look at it. Let's see how this viewer looks at it. Dear Fi Guys, I'm writing this today with a heavy heart and a sense of shame that's been weighing on me for months now. So, you see how they're viewing.
Yep.
At 25, I find myself in a financial mess that I thought I'd never be in. It's hard to admit that I owe $10,000 and it feels like a mountain I simply can't climb. Let me take you back a bit. I graduated college just 3 years ago with a degree in marketing. Congratulations.
Cool.
Like many of my peers, I was full of hope and ambition. I landed a job at a local advertising firm, and it felt like the start of something great. Wonderful. The pay wasn't amazing, but at $21 an hour, it seemed like a decent entry-level position. That's when things started to go a little bit sideways. I was finally making my own money, and I wanted to live like an adult. I moved out of my parents' house into a small apartment with a friend. We furnished it with stuff we really couldn't afford, justifying it that we deserve this and we'll pay it off quickly. We've all been there.
Story as old as time.
Yes, indeed. I bought a new wardrobe for work, thinking I needed to look the part. Now, I do agree that looking the part is very important. I won't deny that. I think, you don't have to go out and buy Versace suits, right? But it is important to feel confident in what you wear. Let's not blow the budget up, though, right? Fixed income. Let's donate put a portion of money to handle that, right? So
yeah, if you're making $21 an hour, you should not be at I don't know, is Brooks Brothers really, really fancy or
yeah, maybe like a Hugo Boss or something like that.
Sure, I don't know suits, but sure, yeah.
You're good. Okay. Yeah, so I bought a new wardrobe for work thinking I needed to look the part. Okay. I went out for drinks with some coworkers and not wanting to miss out on any networking opportunities as well. Okay, so yeah, I get it. So
I've been there.
Yeah. Then came the car. Car's what gets most people, I think. It's shiny. It's expensive. There's so many hidden expenses. Let's see their experience. My old beater from college finally gave up. I'm sorry for your loss. I convinced myself that I needed something a little bit more reliable for commuting. Fair. The dealership made it sound so easy. Just $500 a month for a brand new car. Only $500. But what I didn't factor in was the insurance. Gotta have insurance. At $397, call it $400 even.
Jesus
month.
Christ.
That's a lot of damn insurance. That's crazy. It's killing me. But I can't find anything cheaper due to my age, 25, remember that, and the value of my car. I don't know the value of the car. $500 a month? How many months are we talking? Kind of nervous about that.
Yeah,
anyway.
let's pause before we move on. So that's $900 a month going to just this one asset. Yes. Of course, if you're making $21, I mean, how much is 21 times
40
times 2,080?
2,080 is 43,000.
So he makes $43,000 a year before taxes. Yes. And he has $900 going out a month. So that's nearly $12,000.
Almost $11,000.
Almost $11,000 is going just to the car. That's more than 25% of his amount of money is going just to the car. And that's before taxes, remind you again.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, this is really important that you hear this, audience members. Too many of us, when we're trying to buy something that comes in with a monthly payment, you'll say okay, $500, that's not that bad. I make, could you tell me what 21 times just 40 is?
Yeah. Let's see. 1 times 40, that's 840.
840. Okay. So I make $840 a week every 2 paychecks. Let's say I make $1,600, $1,700. So $500 from $1,700, that's not that bad. But what you have to remember is that a lot of that $1,700 is already accounted for. We have, I don't know, $800 going to rent, $300 going to food,
Mhm.
Now, when you've taken just those two things, the $800 to rent, $300 to food, the $500 eats up the rest of the money. There's nothing for savings, nothing for taxes, nothing for living for your life, nothing for wants, nothing for going out to dinner, nothing for
Yeah,
buying food, nothing for buying clothes. So don't just look at the sticker price. Look at what that means in your overall budget and what is already accounted for, because you have fixed costs already. And if you don't know what they are, I definitely recommend doing some digging and finding out.
absolutely. At $397 a month, it is killing me. But I can't find anything cheaper due to my age and the value of my car. I also have a chronic condition that requires regular checkups and medication. I'm sorry to hear about that. My insurance from work isn't great, and the copays and deductibles add up fast. I started putting them on credit cards, telling myself I'd pay them off when I get my next raise.
Never do that.
No, it's not good to make decisions, financial decisions on other decisions that haven't happened. It's like getting into a relationship based on what they could become, not what they are. You know,
Mhm.
he could be good. He beats you. He's not good. He's not good, Jane. Okay, continuing on. But the raise never came.
Of course.
The advertising industry took a hit, and our firm had to cut back pretty largely. I was lucky to keep my job. That's scary. Okay. I was lucky to keep my job, but any hope of a pay increase vanished overnight. Meanwhile, the interest on my credit card kept growing. About 6 months ago, I had to swallow my pride and move back in with my parents. It was humiliating, but I couldn't afford rent anymore. They've been supportive, but I can see the disappointment in their eyes. They worked so hard to put me through college, and here I am, unable to stand on my own two. I totally get how that can be very just taking the wind out of your sail.
Yeah, I think it's hard because most people they believe that their life should be an upward progression, right? Like a
Mhm.
perfect 45-degree angle of everything getting better. But like life is not that. It is these concentric circles of ups and downs and ups and downs. And the peaks are always higher than the last peak. Ideally, they're higher than the last peak.
Yeah,
But sometimes you do take a knockdown, and that's where people really experience a lot of despair.
yeah,
We
yeah,
always think like, oh yeah, when I was in college, like I had roommates, but then I got my apartment and it was a 1 bedroom. Then I moved to a 2 bedroom. Then I got to a 3 bedroom. Then I got a house. And then for like even me now to think to go back to an apartment, oh God, like I don't want that,
yeah. It'd be crazy.
because like I've grown accustomed to something new too. But that's
Yeah,
just a story like that. I'm telling myself that I can't move backwards. Of course I can. I've done it before and I was fine.
yeah. You're not, first night in the apartment, you go to sleep and you're not going to wake up. You'll still be alive, but it's that lifestyle inflation that you become accustomed to. Like, I can't do that, you know. But it's so interesting to see in different parts of your life, right? I find that so interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest expenses that people don't account for is lifestyle inflation. I think it is the biggest expense.
100%. 100%. So they were lucky to keep their job, but any hope of a pay increase vanished. Meanwhile, the interest on the credit card, like we said, kept growing. About 6 months ago, they swallowed their pride and moved back in with their parents. Sorry, I'll start reading this in the first person. It was humiliating, but I couldn't afford rent anymore. They've been supportive, but I can see the disappointment in their eyes. They worked so hard. I think I read this already. I'm keeping going. They worked so hard to put me through college, and here I am, unable to stand on my feet. Now that I am living paycheck to paycheck, after my car payment, insurance, and the minimum payments on my credit card, I'm left with barely enough to cover gas and food. House poor.
Well, not house poor because he lives with his parents. Car poor.
That's even, yeah, that's not, yeah, that's the medical and school bills I also couldn't pay, and those have gone to collections, and my credit score has hit the gutter. Sorry to hear about that. I feel trapped at 25. Gotcha. I feel like I should be building my career, maybe thinking about buying a house or even starting a family. Instead, I'm back in my childhood bedroom, drowning in debt, with no idea how to fix this mess. I know I made a stupid decision, multiple stupid decisions. I was naive about money and too eager to live beyond my means. But now, I don't know how to dig myself out of this hole. It feels impossible to ever get ahead, really, let alone move out on my own again. And that's a whole nother fear in itself, moving out on your own once again.
Mhm.
I'm writing this partly to vent, partly to warn others, and partly that you guys might have some advice for us. For me, how do I turn this around? And is there a way out of this that I'm not seeing? If you choose this for your viewer mailbag, thank you. But even if you don't, it helps me just to put this all into words, even if I'm too embarrassed to attach my real name to it. Sincerely, from a 25-year-old and drowning in debt, now living at his parents, full of regret. Gotcha. So, a lot of stuff to talk about here. I don't think it's a bad thing to move back in with your parents. It's all about how you look at it. You're looking at it
Yeah.
with a negative perspective, understandably so. You're in the dark, you're in the dungeon, you're in the depths, you know? But we've talked about this before on the podcast. Other people writing in, suggesting that they move in with their parents to save money because the rent or mortgage is killing them, right? If you want to get ahead later in life, you got to make hard choices today. You can't continue living in a facade that everything's going to be okay if you just don't look at things. That's just not how it works, right?
It just keeps on growing and bigger, bigger, bigger. That monster just gets larger the longer you ignore it.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. It really
You know,
does.
he said something in there that he said, like, I'm 25 and I should be buying a house. I should be starting
Mhm,
a family. I should be
mhm.
on my own. And whenever I hear someone use the word should, what I immediately say is you're telling yourself a story. And you're telling yourself the story that your parents probably told you that they went out, and now you're comparing your story, your actual truth, the actual existence, the actual physics of your life to the story in your head of the way things should be. Whenever you should, it is a story that you're telling yourself. And oftentimes in life, all of suffering is derived from life or actual existence not matching up with the story you have in your head. You know, and I know I always go back to Buddhism and Stoicism a lot, but that is the first noble truth of Buddhism is that all life is suffering. And suffering isn't a perfect word because dukkha is a Sanskrit word that doesn't have a perfect translation to English, but dukkha means like unsatisfactoriness of life. And the reason that we have this unsatisfactoriness is from the other four noble truths, but basically it's because we have a story in our head as to way the world should work. And sometimes life is better than that story. And in those points, we're elated, we feel happy. But then, and oftentimes, more often than not, life is worse than the story that we came up with in our head. So whenever I said, oh, I should have got paid this much, I should have gotten this promotion, I should have been able to move across the states and it'd be cheaper, I should have been able to move out. You're telling yourself a story. And of course, when you tell yourself a story, you control all the variables. But in life, you control, and this is truth and scary, you control none of the variables. The only thing you do control is how you react to them.
100%. 100%. Control the variables that you can control. Control the controllables. Like Chris said,
So
you can
if I
control
was
how
this young man, what I would first do is I would create a detailed budget. It doesn't sound like you really know where your money is going outside of just the car and the debt stuff. I know you definitely didn't when you were putting yourself into debt. So hopefully we figure that out. But like I would track every single expense and know exactly where every single dollar is going that's coming in and track how much money is coming in too. Like I need to know that because you need to really start to prioritize your debt repayment. And I would focus first on the credit card debt. Like the stuff that has gone to collections, that's already a collections. It's already ruining the credit score. But if you have credit card debt currently, that is at probably 15 to 20% interest rates, maybe even higher if you have a more premier style credit card. Hopefully you don't. The car payment, average car payment right now, average interest rate is 7 to 9%, which is definitely lower than 15 to 20. So the car payment is important, but we might need to talk about what to do about that here in a little bit. But I would focus on first off getting rid of those credit card debts. And remember what the equation is: how much money you bring in minus how much money you spend. I know you have a marketing job making $21 an hour. For a season of your life, you may need to be overemployed. And by overemployed, I don't mean that you're working a job that's below you. I mean, you're working two freaking jobs. You're working a side hustle. You're doing anything you can to bring in more money. because the more money you make minus the more money that, or the less money you spend, is more money you could throw at your debt. And eventually, once you get the debt away, that money can now be used to build up your wealth, your driver towards financial independence. But at this point, the debt is the most important thing. If I was you too, like, you can always negotiate with your creditors. So I would try to lower my interest rates, or try to come up with a new debt management plan to get rid of these things. The worst thing you can do if you call your credit card company, call whoever financed the vehicle, call your insurance, like, hey, can we look for anything lower? The worst thing they can say to you is no. They're not going to be like, oh, since you asked, we're actually going to increase it 10%. That's never going to happen. Like, that's not how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if it was that way, then I would say, like, be careful with it. But like, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So that's always a thing that we can always look at, like debt consolidation. So you can look into options to combine your debts into a lower single interest loan. That would probably be more for the medical debt and the credit cards. Like, I would probably not wrap the car into that, because in general, if I was you, that car's freaking gone.
Yeah.
$500 a month for the car.
100%.
That's not terrible. Like, $500 a month, it's a lot. Yeah. I think the average right now is $700, but don't compare yourself to the average. But $400 a month in terms of insurance is insane. Like, I get you're 25. I get that you're a guy. I understand that. But I don't know what kind of car you're driving or what you did for the down payment to qualify for like that. That's a lot of freaking money.
Yeah. I'd sell it for sure.
Like, that's more than me and my wife pay for both of our cars.
Yeah.
And we have like really high insurance limits because I've been in a car crash.
Yeah. It's time to return to the beater season. Right.
Yeah.
Get you something
it's time.
That's 6, 7, 8 years, maybe 9 years old. Right. Maybe 10 years old. That's reliable.
I don't know how far you are from work, but can you bike? Like, I don't know, man. Like,
genuinely,
you need to get rid of that thing.
And
if you're unwilling, like, if you hear us, you're like, I'm not going to get rid of the car. The car's my thing. And like, you need to try to refinance that auto loan to a lower rate. Shop around for cheaper insurance, 100%. Like, I don't know if you have to go with the general or like whatever the lowest of the low is, but you need insurance. But like $400 is tough.
Crazy. That's another car payment.
You're basically buying two cars.
Yeah. Yeah, like,
I get rid of the vehicle.
Think of it this way. If you walked into the dealership that day and they're like, this is your car, this is the one you picked out, this is the one you want, and they came to you and they're like, perfect, I want this. And they're like, perfect, this will be $900 a month. Would you have gotten it? I don't think so. That's all. I mean, that's more than a week's salary. So honestly, I'd sell the car and ask my mom very, very nicely if you could take me to work. Something like that.
Drop me off right down the street and I'll walk the last block if you need to.
Exactly. Exactly. This is a season where you need to swallow your pride if you want to have any chance of hope in the future.
Yeah. Right? And also remember that you're only $10,000 in debt. Like, there are people that are way, way worse than that. We've heard from people who are hundreds of thousands of dollars before, and I know they've gotten out of it, and you can do it too. But it's going to take hard choices. It's going to take sacrifices. And you've already made a sacrifice by moving into your parents, which was good on you. But we need to make more sacrifices because, unfortunately, you are car poor, which that's a new term.
Yeah.
You're car poor, not house poor, car poor. And that $900, that's more than half your income is going just to that. Half your income, every paycheck is going just to your car and your insurance, which is ridiculous.
It's too much. It's too much. Max, what do you think, Chris? Max percentage of money that should go after taxes, 20, 25, 20%? What do you think? Less?
To a car?
Yeah. You think less? 15?
I don't know. What I typically say is for your fixed cost, you don't want to be over 50 to 60% for fixed cost.
Okay.
So maybe you want to, if he's going lower on his housing by living with his parents, then that works. But he also had, like, fixed costs also includes debt payments and stuff like that, because you can't negotiate on those. You can't just stop making those. So right now he's 100% of his money is going to fixed costs.
Yeah.
And 50% of that 100% is going just to the car.
Yeah.
And if you only want to be at 50 to 60% for your fixed costs, the car alone wrecks it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does.
So With when it comes to the medical debt and that it's already at collections, like I would definitely recommend you should have done this a long time ago, but you didn't, which is fine. First off, we did a medical debt podcast, so I would go back and find that. But you can always negotiate with the hospitals or the providers to reduce your bill or come up with a payment plan. If you ignore it, yes, it becomes a big scary monster that hits collections. But if you try to work with the hospital or with the provider, they're pretty good at making payment plans. I would always recommend never put it on a credit card because once it's on a credit card, it's off their hands. They can't do anything about it. Now you're dealing with a credit card company and they don't care as much. For you, I wouldn't recommend a financial advisor, maybe like a financial coach, but or maybe even seek like financial counseling. So like maybe look for like a nonprofit that can help you with some professional advice when it comes to improving your credit score, building up an emergency fund. I would just really aim to save a little bit of money every month, but this is after I pay down the debt. Like I need the credit card stuff done before I'm saving other money because luckily you have your parents to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like you're living with them and doing all that stuff. And bro, I'm cutting every single unnecessary expense, like subscriptions,
Out to
entertainment,
eat.
going out,
Yeah.
drinking with my friends, all that stuff. That's gone. You're living like
Cheap.
off your parents,
Yeah.
basically. You know?
And
And that's
I
going
would
to
say
be,
get down on your knees and thank them. Right. Thank them for even being able to take you back.
yeah. Take advantage of this. Like I know that it sucks and you're telling yourself a story that things shouldn't be this way, but like how lucky are you that you have the opportunity to even move back in with your parents and be able to have the ability to aggressively pay down your debt?
Yeah.
Because most people don't have this. It's either I live in my car or I live on the streets.
Yeah.
You have the ability to move back in with your parents and yeah, it sucks. I get it. I get it. But also you have the ability now to learn from this mistake. And I would much rather learn this issue at 25 years old with the ability to move back with my parents than learning it at 40 or 50 when my parents are gone or can't allow me to move back in with them. So
Yeah.
this is really a time in your life that you need to educate yourself about budgeting, saving, investing for your future. You really need to learn the A, B's, and C's of personal finance to never put yourself in this situation again because you've said it, like you messed up. And that's cool. Like you messed up, just repay the debt, stay on a plan. It's going to help build your credit score up as you repay the debt and you show that you can make on time payments. You really need to stay motivated, set small but achievable goals, and celebrate every milestone of every debt that you pay off. So remember, there's 3 methods of paying off credit card debt. You can do the avalanche, the snowball, or the hybrid. I would use the avalanche, but I would probably more likely use the hybrid. Let me explain this to you just in case you're unaware. So this debt snowball method is that you're going to choose the lowest amount of debt. So it doesn't matter what the interest rates are. It's whatever the smallest amount is. That way you can see that like, hey, I paid something off and I got that win. They're going to move on to the next smallest amount of debt. Doesn't matter what the interest rates are. The other one, the debt avalanche, is you're going just based off of interest rates. You have a credit cards, 3 credit cards, and one is at 5%, one's at 10%, one's at 15%. It doesn't matter what the balances are. I'm going after the 15% one until it's paid down. Then I'm going to go to the 10, then I'm going to go to the 5. The hybrid method is one of Dominic's favorites, and I really like it too. But what you do is you start off with the debt snowball. You pay off the smallest one to show yourself like, yes, I can get this one. I can do this. And then you go to the avalanche. Then you go to the highest interest rate. So pay off one, then move to the interest rate. If you don't want, you want to pay off 1, 2, 3, whatever, then move on to the highest interest rate. The highest interest rate one, the debt avalanche, is mathematically the best option. But we are not mathematical people. We're emotional. And sometimes seeing wins is really good. And remember, like getting out of this debt, bro, it's going to take time. Be patient with yourself and focus on consistent progress. We're not trying to go from zero or being $10,000 to no more debt in a day. I'm looking for 1% better every single day. You do that for 1% compounded for 72 days, you're 100% better of a person in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Just under.
Lot to
You got
unpack.
anything else for our guy?
What would you do? This is to help you reframe your situation, but what would you do if you didn't have your parents? I mean, if you think living with your parents is bad, try living in your car and commuting to work because That would probably be your next best option. So be grateful that things are the way they were. You can kind of start changing that mental picture you're kind of seeing. You look at this as a super negative or opportunity to right a wrong, and rise above so that it doesn't happen again. $10,000 when you're 25 feels like the weight of the world. It's like an elephant sitting on your chest, right? People in worse situations who've gotten out of it, $10,000, objectively speaking, is a lot and not a lot at the same time. So take each day one step at a time. Remember that you can get out of this. You know, I know at a young age you feel like everybody's watching, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And your troubles aren't as serious as you might think, right? You're not going to die from this. Does it need to be paid down? Of course, 100%. We need to handle the finances like an adult. Now that you said you wanted to be an adult, this is what being an adult feels like. It's not that fun sometimes. Um, but that's okay. Make a mistake, learn from the mistake. Keyword: learn from the damn mistake, and then move on. And don't make it again. Because if you do it again, you didn't learn. And when it happens again, it's going to be much, 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 much worse. So much worse. You cannot imagine. So much worse. It always is. That's my final thoughts on that, Chris. It really is.
No, I think that's wonderful. You know exactly what you said there. You just have to learn from your mistakes. You grow, you get better, and you be thankful for what you have. Be thankful that you're in this situation now than being in the situation 20, 30 years from now. Yeah, it sucks. I get all of that. But this is an opportunity to learn and to grow. We learn more from our failures than we do anything else. Failure is the most data rich stream of information. So
True.
learn from this.
Yeah.
Learn from this and don't let it happen again, man. But you're going to get out of it. I know it. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. You know, compare yourself. If you're thinking like $10,000, woe is me, bro. We've had people who have wrote into us who are hundreds of $1,000s in debt, have kids depending on them, have mortgages, have all this stuff. Thankfully, we're not in that situation. And I guarantee you that you have friends out there that are in the same exact situation that you are. There are people all around the world who are in the same situation. People just don't talk about it. That's the reason that we try to have this podcast, do the viewer mailbag, is to show people that, hey, there are other people out there just like you. Just everyone is afraid to talk about it because everyone thinks they're the one idiot that messed it up when they're not. No one knows what they're doing. And that's okay. We're all learning this together. And you're going to figure it out just like everyone else has.
Absolutely. With that being said, best of luck. You've got this. You're a champion. You'll survive this. And we hope to hear back from you again once you've risen out of the hole.
Yep. And you'll be better for it, man.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.